Hi seniors, so today we're starting day 3 of unit 3. We're looking at supply. Before we do that, we did a quick review of our homework and the do now. So looking at the homework, you created an individual demand schedule. As your price increases, your quantity demanded should decrease, basically following the law of demand. You graph that. Your demand curve should have a negative slope, and then make sure you label your axes and curves. And then if the restaurant increases their pizza prices, that's going to create a change in quantity demanded because we have this change in price. In the back here, number 4, both A and B show a change in demand, so we should say a change in demand or a demand increase for A, a demand decrease for B. Both C and D show a change in quantity demanded. Letter C shows movement down the curve, which is a quantity demand increase, and D is a quantity demand decrease. For number 5, the first mistake the students often make is they don't recognize that there are 2 different products here. And so if there's 2 products, we have to look at the relationship between these 2 products, and we should identify that they are substitutes. And so with that information, we can label our axes, P and Q. We label our demand curve. And then if Colgate reduces its price, people want to buy that. They don't want to buy Crest. And so the demand for Crest toothpaste is going to decrease, and we show that with the arrow to the left, demand shift to the left, and we explain it by writing that there is a change in the price of substitutes. And that's number 5. For number 6, college tuition decreases. So again, we're going to take a look at the fact that we've got 2 products here, college tuition and college textbooks. The relationship between the 2 is that they are complements. You buy one, you buy the other. And so we can label our graph, draw our demand curve, and if tuition decreases, more people are going to go to college. If more people go to college, then the demand for textbooks is going to increase as well. So we would describe this explanation as a change in the price of complements. And then if we look at the do now, 2 more practice problems, we see again we've got 2 products, hamburger and hamburger buns. And if we graph that, label our axes, our curve, price and quantity. If hamburger prices go up, people aren't going to buy hamburger. That means they're not going to buy hamburger buns either, and so we have a demand decrease. And again, this is a change in the price of complements. The second problem for the do now, there's only one product here, XYZ Telecom. They offer reduced rates. That's another way of saying that they dropped their prices. So we can take that information, we can draw our demand curve, and we're not working with multiple products. We just have one product, so this is a change in quantity demanded. And if we start here with P1, we'll have Q1, and if they drop the rates, P2, Q2, and we're going to have movement down the curve. And so we have a price decrease, quantity, demand increase, and movement down the curve. And there you have it for the homework and the do now. Then we moved on to supply, page 46. We're going to graph and analyze the law of supply with supply schedules and look at a change in quantity supplied. Ties in with our standards, the law of supply, defining it, and then our shifters, we'll look at that on Thursday. The key term is very similar to what we had last week with demand, except that we're replacing demand with the word supply. You can find this on pages 82 and 85 in your text. And thinking about supply, we have to first think about the perspective that we're coming from. Why would a company produce more of a product to sell? A company is going to produce more of a product if it sells and they make a profit out of it. So that profit motive is what drives our producers or our suppliers. And that makes sense thinking about the 3 economic questions. How are we going to produce something in a market economy? It's the producers seeking profits. And so they make decisions which increases their profits. In economics, we have to look at things from different angles. if you're thinking about supply but looking at it from the wrong angle, you're going to get it all wrong. And so we have to look at supply from the perspective of a producer. We have to look at it from the same side. And so that same side, we can think about a market transaction. People buying a car, they want a low price. So these consumers don't want to pay very much. But a producer, a car seller, wants to make a profit. They want to have that price as high as they can in order to make money. And so what we've got here are two different sides. We have the demand side and we have the supply side. Now put these two terms together, they're always related. Demand means consumers, supply equals producers. So if you're thinking about demand, you have to think about how little can I pay? How can I get as much as I want for the least cost? If you're a supply, how can I make as much money as I can? And so we think about this. Table 1, you can follow along unit packet page 7. If I'm producing these Monster energy drinks and at 25 cents, I'm not going to make much profit, so I'm not going to sell very many. But as I increase the price, I'm willing to sell more because I'm going to make more profit by selling them at a higher price. Now again, forget about what consumers would do. Think only about what I would do as a producer, all else equal. And that gives us our definitions. You can pause the video and take note of these. Table 2, we did similarly as before. We took the data from our classmates' tables and we found a market demand schedule. And that's what we labeled these as supply schedules. Table A is an individual supply schedule. Table 2 or line B below Table 2 is a market supply schedule. And so using that data, we can identify the law of supply. This is our definition. Producers, sellers are willing to produce more or make more of a good or service as the price becomes higher. Why? Because of the profit motive. And so we're going to see a positive sloped curve. And that supply curve is a line on the graph that represents the amount of a good or service that producers will offer to sell at different prices. And so there's a direct relationship between quantity and price, and it's going to create a positive slope, not a negative slope like we had with demand. And so if you copy down this graphic organizer in your notes, we'll fill this out later in the week. Right now, if we look at price, and we could add to this price side quantity supplied, because anytime there's a change in price, it's going to be a change in quantity supplied. Any other non-price factor will result in a different type of shift that we'll look at later in the week. And so if we have a change in price, we have a change in quantity supplied. And so that's the change in price causes movement along the supply curve. Very similar to a change in quantity demanded, except that we're worth the supply curve now. So if we have our starting price, we hit point A on the supply curve, and that gives us a quantity here. But if we increase our price, producers are willing to supply more, which is going to increase our quantity. So a price increase, quantity supply increase, and we have movement up the supply curve. So again, very similar as with demand, we're just looking with the positive sloped curve instead of a negative sloped curve. For the homework, supply practice and review worksheet number 1, it's in your unit packet, pages 8 and 9. As always, reach out if you have any questions. Good luck.